Greetings all architecture students. In this video you're going to learn several things. One is how to use Revit. So you're going to learn how to use Revit to build it, or to not build a house, but design a house. Secondly, you're going to learn not just how to use Revit to put up walls and stuff. We're going to learn some things about house design. Okay, so I'm going to be going over that as well. So learning Revit, learning about house design, and learning a little bit about teaching architecture to young students. Now these videos are geared toward high school students, so we're talking about ages from 14 to about 18, maybe sometimes 19 years old. So it's all basically geared toward their learning methods or their learning modes at that age. Adults and kids, teenagers, learn differently. So if you're an adult, you might see that this might be a little bit too slow for you, or not quite adjusted to your learning style. That's perfectly fine. You can still watch and learn plenty of things. But if if you feel like it's too slow or whatever, you might want to run over to another person I know on the internet teaching Revit is Balkan Architect. Balkan, B-A-L, I think it's K-A-N, Balkan Architect. But he does some really good stuff, really, higher speed. Teaches toward people who already know how to use Revit and already know how to design. Okay, so that's going to be the different perspective here. I'm teaching this to students, young students who have no idea how to design or how to use Revit. Okay. All right. So, of course, anybody is welcome to listen. I know I do have several college students out there that are in their first or second year of college that also use my videos to help them learn Revit. So here we go. Let's carry on from here. First thing I want to show you is what I'm going to use to actually design this house. I'm going to use a set of specifications that are on what we call, or what I call, a problem statement. Now I use this in my class with my students. If you are a teacher, this is a good example of a problem statement. I'm going to try to leave a link to this somehow. I'm not sure how to do it exactly, but leave a link to this below in the description or what have you, so that you can have access to this file. Okay. But this one starts with, we have the problem statement itself. This is where it's kind of sets you up for the scenario. And I really don't use that. I mean, they're very vague. They don't really go very far enough into it, or what have you. And of course I could do some editing to that section as well. And just for your information, this comes from a textbook called Architecture, Residential Drafting and Design. Okay, that's where it comes from. I didn't write this one, but I do take these as templates and I adjust a lot of them and, kind of rewrite some myself, and you're free to do that as well. But what this does for students is it helps students, go by a set of instructions, because when they get to their job and they're going to design a house or what have you, after college or whatever, they just can't willy-nilly design whatever they want to. Okay. They have to have constraints that both meet client needs and wants, and also building codes and other possibilities, and economics. They have to meet the economics of the client, things like that. So you really want to teach your very young students, kind of how to follow a set of specifications, and then to create their interpretation of those specifications. Not loose interpretations. They have to be, very constrained. We do have building codes. I mentioned those before. We do have building codes we have to follow. Okay, but anyway, let's start right here with the first one. It's called the floor plan, and this is where we'll spend most of our time at first. So this is the only part I'm going to go over right now. But as you see, it's 1,200 square foot single family residence, plus or minus 5% of 1,200 square feet with carport. All right, so plus or minus 5% means of 1,200 square feet. Now, when you sit down to design and you have this type of request, and this request comes from a client, so they want 1,200 square feet. I think I said 12,000 earlier. I do apologize. But 1,200 square feet of living area. Okay, so that means your overall outline, your overall layout is going to be bigger than that, because you're going to have walls and things like that on the inside that are going to take up area, take up some of that living area. Okay, so what we're after in the end is 1,200 square feet of living space plus or minus 5%. So how do we work that out? Well, it's real simple. We can use, there we go. Okay, and 1,200 times 5%, 60 feet. Okay, so you're looking at the low end. You don't want it to be any smaller than 1,140 feet, and you don't want it to be any bigger than one. You know, did I say that right? 1,140. Yeah, and you don't want it to be any bigger than 1,260 square feet. Okay, so that's kind of your margin of error, if you want to call it that. But we don't expect you to come out with a perfect 1,200 square feet. Although I have had some students that I don't know. OCD or something, they just have to have it come out right at 1,200 square feet, and they do it. Okay, no big deal. But yeah, there is a little flexibility in that. You know, a little bit of movement one way or the other. So 1,200 square feet single family residence with carport. We're going to try to get them 2 bathrooms in there. It's pretty small, 1,200 square feet, so we may only have 1 bathroom, but we'll see what we can do. Okay, hip roof. Okay, it's going to have a hip roof, 7/12 pitch, you know, and you can see this is a very basic house. 2x4 exterior walls. Now, what that is talking about, the 2x4, that is the structure material of the wall systems. Okay, so they're using 2x4 as structural material, not 2x6, not 2x8, but they're using 2x4 lumber. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. Exterior walls with siding. Okay, here's a question we might want to ask ourselves here is what type of siding? Okay, so is it going to be wood, metal? Those are some of the things that we would get with the client and ask. But if you don't have a client present with you, and I allow my students a little freedom on that and say, okay, you can make that out of metal, wood, vinyl, however you want to do that, but we're not using bricks. Okay, we're not using bricks or blocks. That does change some of the characteristics of the wall system and the foundation system as well when you go to bricks and blocks. So we're going to stay away from that for now. Second is the next one's going to be 2x4 interior walls. So the interior walls are also using 2x4 as structural lumber. And then we get down to the plumbing. Wet walls are using 2x6 wet walls, and they use this thicker wood or wider wood for those plumbing walls because you're going to be cutting into some of that wood to run pipes for your sinks and bathtubs and things like that. And we want to maintain that structural stability by making that a little bit larger. It's going to have 2 bedrooms with 2x6 closets, and then it's going to have a master bedroom with a full bath and walk-in closet. Okay, so they do want a master bath. It's probably going to be a small master bath, okay? And it also has a walk-in closet, so it's, you know, again, it's going to be a small walk-in closet with the amount of square footage we're working with over here. So in other words, they have to have 2 baths because you have a master bedroom with a full bath and walk-in closet. Means it's going to be a master bathroom inside, like a master suite. Okay, it's going to have the bedroom and the bathroom connected together. Nobody else can access that or should be able to access that. So there will have to be one in the hallway for the other 2 bedrooms and your guests, the guests who visit your house occasionally. It's going to have a kitchen and dining area that's going to be wrapped all into one. So it's really going to be an open type plan. You know, the kitchen's going to have a small dining area. A lot of times that's just like a bar, like an island bar that serves also as, you know, for food prep and serving meals. You got a 1 living room. And again, you know, if you tie all this together right here, you've got a really open plan. And the title and scale of the drawing, 1/4 inch equals 1. Dimension all interior walls, center studs, dimension all exterior walls, 2 doors in their centers. Okay, so we're not really paying a whole lot of attention to this right now. We're mainly paying attention to the stuff that's up top here. Okay, all right, so what we do when we go to Revit and we want to put this in, you know, some of this stuff we'll keep in memory. We'll have to come back and double check later on to make sure we're following the specifications. I'm going to click on this new button right here. And that new button, and this is the screen that you'll see when you first open Revit, when you first double click on that application to location. Okay. And when you click on that new button, you should get this little dialog box that says new project. Okay, the default project is Imperial Multidiscipline, and it contains a lot of stuff, and it's real slow to open up. But it's got a lot of stuff that you just won't use in the beginner phase. So I'm going to click on the Browse button. Okay, and I'm going to bring that window over here to my next screen. Okay, so when I click that Browse button, this right here comes up. And I want to go to just default. It just says default only. It doesn't say anything else after default. So click on default and then click OK. And default is a very kind of a minimalistic template. It loads a lot faster. It's great for your students to use because there are some things they have to add to this project without, let me close that. Okay, so there's some things, certain components they'll have to add to the project later on that they need to learn how to add on to. Okay, so now we've got our blank design screen, and I'm going to give you an overview of all the different components, and that'll bring this video to an end. Okay, so let's start up here at the top left. We have this big R. If we click on that big R, we got kind of what they call, or used to call, the application menu, and it does not have the stuff that it used to have on it before. Okay, let's click on File right up under that. Okay, File has the stuff that the big red or the big R right here used to have, but under the File menu, you got your most basic commands: new file, open a file, save a file as something else, export, print, and close. Very basic stuff, and this also the same stuff you have on what we call the quick access toolbar, which goes right across the top here. Okay, let me close that, and you can see this one has a lot of the same stuff on the quick access toolbar. Here's your undo and redo and all that kind of stuff. You'll use that a lot. You'll probably use this measuring tool sometimes. I prefer just to use the dimensioning tool. It gives me more accurate dimensions than this one does, but sometimes I'll use that one. But all your basic stuff. Here's your 3D view button. Okay, you'll be interested in that a little bit later. Here's where we get our sections from when we make a section. Okay, but this is your quick access toolbar. I'll have you refer to that quick access toolbar several times. So just remember where it's at. You don't have to remember everything that's on it. Just remember where it's at. Quick access toolbar. Okay, here's your tabs bar. So all the tabs that give you different tool layouts for, I forget what they call that, but basically systems. You'll see all the tools dealing with systems. Okay, so if I click, if I can get my, there we go. Okay, all right, so where was that? Click on systems. Then we got our heating and air conditioning systems, our plumbing systems, several other piping systems here, more plumbing, here's wire, things like that. Okay, steel, if I click on steel, I got everything that deals with putting steel together, putting a steel structure together. Okay, but I'm going to start out over here on architecture. Architecture's got all the basic tools that you'll need to design a residential structure. Okay. All right, so that is your tabs bar. Then below that, of course, you got your ribbon. The ribbon has the tools on it. The different names on the tab bar will take you to different tool sets, and then you'll get a ribbon just like this. So architecture tab, this is our ribbon. Ribbons are also sectioned off with these light gray lines that kind of go through certain sections there, and those are called panels. So this is basically your build panel. This is your circulation panel, model panel, room and area panel, so forth and so on. Okay. All right. Also down here, you never want to close these boxes. Never ever want to close these boxes. This happens a lot with new users. I don't know why. They see an X here, they think they got to close it. But no, don't close these boxes. I'll show you what to do in just a few minutes. If you do actually close those boxes, I'll show you how to get them back. But this is your properties panel, so this tells you what the properties of any object that you're currently working with. So it'll give you the exact properties, say, of a window, a door, a wall, a floor, things like that. It'll give you those properties. This is your project browser. This is how you get to different views. So we're starting out on level 1 view. This is going to be a 1 floor design, so we're really not going to use level 2 at all. But we got level 1, we got site plan view right here, site plan. Then we have ceiling plans. Okay, and I'll talk more about ceiling plans later. We got elevations, okay, east, north, south, and west. So that shows you those elevations of the building. So you're looking at the building from the side, not the top, like we typically do when we're designing. Then you got other things down here at the bottom that'll come up, and depending on what you have in your project, more things may pop up to use over here, and we'll go over that as we see them. All right, over to the right, you do have some little tools here. There used to be a view cube. I don't know what happened to the view. Oh, it's probably because we're not in 3D view, but we'll talk about the view cube later when we see it. But I'm going to show you some easier ways to navigate on your screen without using that view cube. Well, let's go ahead and click on that 3D thing. So I'll show you the view cube since I'm talking about it. So this is your view cube. You can grab it and move it around, stuff like that, and that moves your view. It kind of orbits. It's called orbiting. Okay, but you can actually hold your shift button down and press the center wheel on your mouse. There's a wheel between the two left and right buttons on your mouse. You can press that in, press that button in on the mouse, and then press the shift key, and then you get orbit just like this, just by moving your mouse around. Okay, if you release that and then just push on the center button of the mouse, then you get the panning effect. Okay, here we go, and let's go back to two-dimensional by clicking right over here on the level 1 tab, and this is how your views will come up. You'll be looking at several different views at once, and they all show up on a tab just like that. Okay, so let's go back to level 1. These are your elevation markers, so they correspond with these over here, so we don't ever want to delete these either. If you do, there's a way to bring them back or to put another one in place of it. Okay, but when you do delete it, you destroy everything that was on it. Okay, and let's see, down at the bottom here, this is where you set your scale, right here at the very bottom left. So I can click on that and set my scale. A lot of times I'll start out using this scale just because it's there. But you really want to be working, especially when you get down to doing your annotations, you want to be in this scale. 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. That's the scale you want to use. Okay, so when you turn in your work, this is for my students, when you turn in your work, it must be in 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. Okay, you can see how that made the markers, the elevation markers, a little bit smaller. Okay, over here are some things. I'll show you how to use these as we need them. Okay, there's very little that you really have to use over here, and you know, we'll talk probably about 1 or 2 of those later on as we start to use them. But you know, basically that's it. That's for the user interface. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and sign off now and let you kind of mull that over, mull all the introductory things that we're talking about. And then on the next one, we'll talk about wall systems.